Hello, my name is Carlos, and this is my NCL Spring 2024 project. In this project, I built an OpenSense firewall. OpenSense is a spin-off of pfSense, which is a free and open source software, I believe. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but just never put in the effort to do, never took the time to do and learn. And I figured that this would be a good excuse/reason to do it. The build was fairly straightforward. Before we could actually do the installation, we had to go ahead and build out the computer. Here's just a quick list of the parts that I used. It was a mixture of old and new parts. A lot of these parts, for example, the case, the cooler, the storage, they've been sitting around for probably like 3 to 4 years now. One thing I will say is that these parts are probably a little bit overkill for just OpenSense. You could create like a mini PC, like literally just like if you look up mini PC, you'll find like, or even OpenSense mini PC. That this company will also have PCs you can buy with multiple NIC cards and stuff like that. The star of the show, I want to say, is this networking card, the Intel X540T2. It's a dual 10 gigabit NIC card. 10 gigabit is something I've been wanting to do for such a long time, but I could never justify the cost. This NIC card was about $100, I believe, used. It's a dual port, so it's really nice. Unfortunately, I don't have many devices in my household that can take advantage of 10 gigabit, but I do have a few 2.5 gigabit devices, which can be helpful because sometimes I do some self-hosting. I self-host raw photos, videos, things of that nature. And if I need to transfer large video files, like maybe something from a recording, I can easily and quickly transfer those around. So unfortunately, I did not take any video of me building the computer just because I did not, really. So instead, I have this little slideshow. I have photos. So let's go ahead and go through that real quick. So here on the left-hand side, you see the old PC with a very old CPU and some shmoo on it, and the new PC on the right-hand side. Just as the process of taking it apart, taking out the CPU cooler, taking out the fans. There's a new motherboard there, pretty straightforward. You can see the case was really old and dirty. I cleaned it out. I grabbed a fan cleaner, a vacuum, cleaned it up. Here it is. You can see the fan looks a little bit better now. Just different view of that. I think RAM is already installed. It was not that annoying. See, case is a lot cleaner. Me just putting in the power supply there, reusing the power supply. It's not, again, this is not a professional build. This is just, again, things I've had lying around. There's the star of the show, 2 dual port NICs. There's the 2 NICs I speak about. It was a half height bracket, so it did not have that full height bracket that could just keep it in place. But yeah, that's it. That is the case, and its glory. Which is going to be facing backwards in my shelf, I guess. I don't have a rack yet. That's something we can worry about down the line. Don't worry about that. Now let's send it back to past me to see how things went. All right. So I've made the poor decision to, instead of going bare metal with my OpenSense router, I'll be doing virtualization. So before I can install OpenSense, I must first install virtualization software. But before I can do that, I'm going to have to actually burn an ISO to a disk. So I have here Rufus, and I'm just going to burn the ESXi 8.0, I guess vCenter, vSphere ISO here, which I should have on my desktop here. Cool. Here you go. Rufus, for those of you who are not aware, is basically just an ISO to USB installation toolkit. You can download them here. So if you hit download here, it'll actually go out and grab specific ISOs for you. So if you want to do Ubuntu or something like that, you can do that. Again, I got VMware VMvisor installer here. I received this via a SANS course. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do that. And we're going to select that. Oh, I selected it. Oops. I'm just going to go ahead and start installing this. All right, cool. And it's done. So let's go ahead and close this out. I'm just going to move this flash drive onto the other computer. 1 second. So the flash drive has been created. I've plugged it into the new computer. And now I've been running into an error. So hopefully we're going to go into the UEFI settings and resolve that error. The error that you can see here through the power of editing. Fatal error 10 out of resources. That doesn't seem good. don't know what that means, right? But it looks like I ran out of resources. But from what I've been reading online, it might just be a setting that I need to change in the BIOS. So that's what we're going to go do right now. And hopefully that'll fix it. So I believe it has to do with the CSM. Where is that? Which I am not an expert of these tools. I'm going to keep these all in UEFI. I may have to disable this, I don't know. Because I know I have to enable 4G decoding. Which was, I believe, in the here. So I need this. So yeah, disable CSM first. And then enable 4G decoding and resizable bar. I've done this before in the past. It is recommended for most modern computers because they can use this tool called resizable bar, and I don't really know what it does, but it helps your frame rate in video games go up. So let's go ahead and enable both of these just in case they're needed. Probably not, but you never know. Let's go ahead and save and exit changes. All right, so we're here. We have a lot of UEFI options. Weirdly enough, I don't see the USB device. There wasn't one here earlier. Maybe it's just... Maybe I disabled something I shouldn't have. We'll see what happens. Oh, okay. Looks like it's good. All right, awesome. This is further than I got last time. So I think we're going to be all good here. So I'm just going to let this load. I will also be including the resources that I used going through these setups in the description and in the document as well, just because these people are probably more qualified than I am in explaining what I am doing here. Just because I've never had to set up a ESXi hypervisor before, right? Why would I have? That is why you pay professional services. Oh, I looked away. I was looking. Oh, okay. I think we're good. I looked away briefly, but it looks like we're okay. We're gonna go ahead and continue this. We're gonna accept this EULA. We're gonna go through the only SSD there. In the future, I'll probably add a secondary SSD. I do have an NVMe drive open, but for now, I just had this lying around, so I will use that. This PNY one. Sure. Select disk, installer upgrade, scanning. That's fine. If I have information in there, I don't really care. Is that the disk that contains at least one? Yep, that's totally fine with me. All right. Hopefully I didn't mistype it twice. This disk will be partitioned. Let's go F11. And now to reboot the server by pressing enter. All right, cool. So now it looks like it's up and running. Before I log into the actual, I guess, ESXi host page, I'm going to first do a couple changes. The first thing I want to do, this is also explained in the guide that is attached to the project in the document. You want to change your IP address to be non-DHCP. You want it to be static. Basically, the idea is you don't want your router, or I guess you don't want this IP to change constantly, right? DHCP, there's like an 8 to 12 hour delay, sometimes more, maybe days. I'm not exactly sure what it's set up on my home router, whatever AT&T has set up for us. We want that IP address to stay static all the time so we can always easily get to it instead of having to worry about what that is. Let's go ahead and customize the system and review logs. Oh, here. So this is what I care about the most. Everything I have in this house, as far as I know, except for maybe my home server, is DHCP. I actually don't know if my home server is DHCP. I'm gonna keep it as... I need to check my router for this. There's so many routers to look at. I'm just gonna set static. Oh, what? Set static. Oh, space mark selected. And then I think that makes sense. Like, can I backspace there? Oh, great. 192.168.1.1, and I kind of want to pick something that I won't forget. 404 would have been nice, but we can't do 404. 54, I want to do one. I think 236 is taken. Let's do 253. Let's do 253. I don't think anything else I have is using that. So let's go ahead and press enter. I'll do 252. That makes me feel better, a little bit safer. Just because, again, this is something that I probably should know, but I don't know, right? So it's now set to static. DNS servers. Um, I want to use the DNS server 1.1.1.1. Um, there's something that I will probably change in the future. This is just for now. And what this would be changed to would be the actual, what's it called? The actual OpenSense router. The idea is all of my devices should be going to the OpenSense virtual machine to know where to go. Which honestly, it'll probably just be Cloudflare, just because that's what I use. Alternatively, we'll just do 8.8.8.8, which is just Google, and the host name, I want cd-esxi. That's my naming convention for a lot of things I have. So hit enter for OK. DNSX. All right, so the license has been applied. Blur that out, future me. Go ahead and I think something we want to do. Yep, set up the NTP server. All right, I then proceeded to fumble in vSphere for probably like another 2 hours before I decided this. All right, so real quick, I think I explained this in the last ending of the last video, clip, whatever you want to call it, is that we basically the stars did not align for us when it comes to ESXi. There are a couple of issues that I've run into and things that I might not be able to do, and it's probably a lot more involved than I anticipated earlier. One, I probably have to install the actual vCenter to manage the network, the virtual network. But the main one being having to potentially migrate away from ESXi vSphere to Proxmox in the future because of licensing. Just because that is a license I got from a class that is only available for 1 year, and I don't really want to go through the, I don't know, potential headache of transitioning from ESXi to something else. So instead, we are going to straight up just go to Proxmox. So Proxmox is from, don't know too much about it, but I do know it is a very, what is it called? Very popular in virtualization. So this is what we're going to end up using instead. So we're going to go ahead and download the Proxmox installer 8.1. And I believe I need to create a bootable drive for that. So we're basically starting back at start page 1. All right, looks like it's done downloading. So let's go ahead and choose the device. I have the flash drive plugged in already. Select the ISO, Proxmox ISO. ISO highway creators have not made it compatible with ISO. I don't know. Whatever the heck that means, we'll just say yes. Proxmox ISO. Okay, cool. We're just gonna start. Another thing I forgot to mention that will be solved from what I read by Proxmox is that the third NIC, the one built into the motherboard, the Realtek one, should be usable. So at least we have that. All right, and now we have that done. So let's go ahead. Now that the USB has the bootable USB has been created, let's go ahead and plug it into our device. All right, cool. So now that that's done, let's go ahead and boot into the USB device. And hopefully this will take us through the Proxmox installation. Hey, and it did. Cool. So far a lot more easier than ESXi. What we're just gonna do install Proxmox. Graphically is fine. Doesn't really matter too much. I have my notes here. I actually took notes this time. All right, cool. We're gonna read through the entirety of this and click next. I've already read it offline, so you know that's all good. Okay, just make sure everything is okay. We're gonna install it on, I think we are doing it on the PNY. Just because it has a name. So it seems a lot easier to just use the PNY one, and SATA SSD will just be whatever. I do potentially plan on adding an NVMe SSD in here, a 1 terabyte one, but not right there. And then again, this is gonna be cold storage, so let's just go ahead and just add it to this one. I'm gonna click on it. Cool. So for Proxmox, so here's so thankfully this tells us the information here. This ENP4SO, don't exactly know what that means, but this is the one built into the motherboard. So already there we have all 3 NICs, and these here are port 0 and 1, 1 and 2 of the Intel dual NIC card, the one that has 10 gigs. I believe this is still 2.5 gig. But yeah, I do want the management interface to be the built-in motherboard one, and this will be used strictly for OpenSense firewall. We'll do that. I don't like the fact that it has attlocal.net, probably because that's my ISP, but I'm just going to do cd prox. And I'm going to get rid of that other stuff just because I don't want that there. And this is going to be 72. We're going to be replacing what we had from the ASXi host to here. The gateway and DNS server, I believe that's correct. The gateway is currently the our AT&T ISP router gateway combo, which is currently in pass-through mode, I believe. I'd rather be cd.local or something like that. Everything looks good to me. I'm okay with that. Reboot after successful installation. Sure, we're gonna go ahead and install it, and it should be good. This is different than I anticipated. Okay, it's booting. Cool. Okay. This wasn't in the tutorial. Oh, that might be it. All right, so let's go ahead and try testing this out on my other computer. I have the ports and everything. Cool. One sec. All right, now we are in Proxmox. This GUI is new to me, so bear with me. I think the first thing we have to do is let's initialize the 2 extra disks that we have. Let's add the 2 disks to Proxmox. From what I've read, it should be in here. Go to disks. Let's wipe the 2 disks here. So it's going to be these 2 here. Wipe that disk. Yes. Done. Cool. And we're also going to wipe this one. And while I'm at it, give me one moment. I'm going to go ahead and unplug that USB device. Now, we can go ahead and initialize this SSD. Okay, awesome. I think it initialized. And we'll also do the same with this. Details. Okay. Let's reload that. All right. So I did some reading on the different types of directories and LVM thins and LVMs. So my plan is to have one disk that's for like the actual VMs, one for the actual host, and then one for the cold storage, basically just ISO files, things like random like that. I won't say random, but like just files that like just can be stored there. So from what I read, LVM thin is basically block storage. So it's not really a file system. It's just a way that it's kind of like a virtual disk, if you think of it that way. That's kind of carved up without really actually being a file system. So from my understanding, LVM thin lets you do things like snapshots, running virtual machines off of them, things of that nature. While a directory is basically just like a dummy file path. So if I open up a like my Windows Explorer, right? Windows Explorer, your C:/users, your /etc/ whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and create one of LVM thin and one directory. So LVM thin will be for the extra SSD that we have here. Create thin pool. We're gonna call this the run disk. Basically where things are gonna be running from is one way I like to think of it. All right, cool. Looks like it's done, and now we can see the run disk over here. We're gonna create a directory, and this is gonna be that 500 gigabyte hard drive I have in there. That's not really doing anything. Again, this is where I'll be storing things of that nature. I'm gonna do X4, same as keep it simple. hold_store. This might take a little bit. All right, that was fairly quick. So now that we have that, we should be able to just go ahead and add a VM disk here or ISO image here. Let's go ahead and upload that. I already downloaded the OpenSense file. You guys remember seeing that in the other part of the video / earlier in the documentation. Gonna open up OpenSense. Cool, hash algorithm. I mean, I don't think I need to do a hash file. I got it from their site. Doesn't hurt, right? And then we're just... All right, cool. It is done. Task okay, because you copied that down there. So now we can go ahead and start creating the virtual machine. And I'm going to be creating the virtual machine on the run disk. Why not, right? So let's go ahead and create a VM. The node will be on CD prox. One thing that's kind of nice about Proxmox is you can have multiple nodes. Kind of like, I don't know, like vSphere, you can have one node there, one node there. They can be replicating. From my understanding, I could be mistaken. Or like for redundancy, I don't have a second node. That's something I might look into in the future, but not right now. VMID will be 100. That's fine. And the name was going to be cd-open. I think that's fine. I'm going to do all lowercase -open because why not? Let's do cd-open. The resource pool. I don't have any pools. Let's go ahead and hit. Let me see what advanced. I just want to see what advanced does. All right, start at boot. That's important. If our virtual machine or if our hypervisor for some reason goes down, we still want the OpenSense router to be available. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that. Tags. You know what? Let's do like a network. Network. Firewall. Why not? What else? That's fine. Probably don't need that. Just why not? It's a feature, and so you make use of it. So we're going to do it in cold storage, OpenSense, guest OS. So this is other. It's FreeBSD, but I don't see it here. I guess we'll just leave it at default. Hopefully it'll work. We'll see. In the other hypervisor vSphere ESXi, it did work fine. We'll just keep going forward. So this is something that I'm not going to worry about. Defaults should be fine. There is an updated Q35 UEFI BIOS that is recommended, but it's still fairly new. And by fairly new, I mean about a year old. I don't know enough about it to really say like yes or no, but I'm just leaving it at default and pray basically. Let's go ahead and look at this here. So I can add a disk here. It's using like 32 gigabytes. I believe it recommended 120 gigs. So I'm not going to do 120 gigs just because I'm low on storage. I'm just going to let's do 80 for now. And if I need to expand storage, I will. If I need to expand this, I will. Default cache, no, discard. There is also something else we might want to do. Yes, SSD emulation. Since this is running on the SSD run disk, we want to turn on SSD emulation and discard. This basically, from my understanding, lets you create, lets you use some of the advanced features that SSD have, like trim and things like of that nature. Bandwidth, okay, unlimited, that's fine. Go ahead and click on next. CPU, let's do 4 cores. I only have one socket, so I'm just gonna do 1 socket, 4 cores. Type, well, from what I've read, you want to use the host. So that means it'll take whatever the host CPU is and apply that information here. So if it has like any specific like extra functionality on the CPU, it can use whatever's on the CPU. So we're just gonna use host there. So 4 CPUs, vCPUs. That's it. From what I've read, you do want to enable NUMA if you're doing high availability. We are not doing that as of this moment. I will leave everything else as default. Memory, let's do 4 gigs. And we want to turn off ballooning. I believe this means that it'll let you continue to grow your RAM. The RAM will continue to balloon until it's no longer needed. I want to do 8 gigs, 8192, I believe is the number. Go ahead and hit next. Network, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, so I'm not going to go look at this really. And then just confirming. Balloon off, host, cold storage, 8192, CD procs, CD OpenSense. And yeah, looks good to me. Network firewall, cool. And we're not going to start it just yet. So now if we go into, cool, okay, cool. So now you can see here, it is in the process of being created. And nice, looks like it's basically done. We're not going to run it just yet. We have the CD installed. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and kind of configure the network of that is going to be used by this. So it's going to be a little bit complicated. I am not 100%, I am not a network engineer. This is just a hobby. I'm not a lawyer and I never played one on TV. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the host network. And here we should be able to see all of those exact, what's the word I'm looking for? All of the NICs here. So we have, as I said a little bit earlier, we have these 2 NICs here in P1S0F0 and F1. These are the Intel NICs that are added. These are the 10 gig NICs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to edit these. I'm going to add a comment. I'm going to say 10 gig NIC. Right? Just so that way, 10 G NIC. 10, why not? Okay. And we're going to do the exact same thing as this one. Okay, cool. And then this is going to be 2.5. This is the built-in LAN one. Just for the sake of keeping everything working okay. And this is actually pretty cool. I'm not sure if I did not know this was possible, but it looks like every change I'm doing here is being done via command line and translating it to command line. It looks like this is how that's being done. That's actually really cool. That is actually really cool. But anyways, so now that we have that, we got to kind of talk about network bridges, Linux bridges and pass-through. The method that we used, the default methods in, I believe, when we're going through the OpenSense VM installation, and from what I've read, pass-through, it is not going to work very well there. From my understanding, what pass-through does is it just takes the hardware and sticks it straight into the virtual machine, which sometimes you do want, just because you don't necessarily want other devices or your hypervisor to use that NIC. In this instance, we are not able to do that for two reasons. One, we did not use that Q35 and UEFI boot settings. And number two, if I'm correct, is from what I read online, you can only pass a specific device. So I could pass this device or this device. Issue here is, since this is its own device, this right here, these two NICs are its single device, both those ports would be passed through to just the firewall, which I don't want, I don't believe. Because from what I've read, you want one dedicated WAN port, one dedicated LAN port. So we're going to do that right now, actually. So we're going to go ahead and create some more bridges. VMBR1, that's fine with me. That's fine. The bridge ports. So we want to use one of these up here. So let's go ahead and exit this out real quick. Can I highlight the name? Can I copy the name? I can. Cool. And let's go ahead and create another bridge port. Give it the name of 0. And I guess this is where I kind of need a label maker. I don't know what 1 or 0 is, right? But I'm going to make this the WAN port. WAN port, right? We're going to go ahead and create that. I'm just thinking to make sure that's okay. At one point, I'm going to try to make it VLAN aware. That's going to be down the line. We're going to create cool WAN port, and then we're going to go ahead and create another one for the LAN port of 1. And nothing else should use these devices. Nothing else should use these NICs. That's the hope. So let's go ahead and create. This is going to be the LAN. I should probably OpenSense, but that's fine. So there you go. So now that's there. And now I want to go into our OpenSense virtual machine. I'm going to go back into the hardware and change up some of the network devices. So we want to remove this. I don't think this will break anything. I'm trying to think. It shouldn't. Because this network device is not in use. Okay, yeah. Because this is taking it from this firewall, not our Proxmox. Proxmox is still going to have internet, so that's fine. Removing that, yes. Let's go ahead. The network cards. We're going to go with the WAN port. Keep everything the same. And we're going to add the second, the LAN port. So let's go ahead and go into the VM. Start it. And I believe we should just be able to get into it. Oh. Hold on. Start failed. Pending change. Either reboot or use apply. Oh, okay, there you go. Okay, so that's it. I just did not apply configuration. So let's go ahead and apply configuration. And now that they're active. Okay, cool. Good to know. Error codes are wonderful. Now we can go ahead and start the server. Okay. Cool. And now we're kind of at where we were at before we left ESXi. That's good. All right. Looks like the defaults have been done. So now we can go ahead and go through the installation, installer, and the super secret password that no one can ever guess. OpenSense. All right. So now let's go ahead and continue with the default key map. Again, we've been through this before. I'm going to go with UFS. The person whose tutorial was following was basically talking that UFS is more of a... You basically want to use ZFS if you're doing redundancy. We're not doing redundancy. Probably should at one point, but not right now. I don't have the resources for that currently. Just going to go with UFS. So we can do it on... We want to install it on the actual partition of the... that we created, the 80 gigabytes. Let's go ahead and do that. Yes, recommendation's fine. Are you sure? Yes. All right, and it's done. Cool. Yeah, it's not asking me for installer or anything, so I think that's correct. So let me go to that IP address. So this is going to be annoying because I think there is currently a router that does use 192.168.1.1. Now we are here in OpenSense. Cool. So hopefully I remember the password. I believe it's root. It is correct. Looks like I'm going to go ahead and save that into my password manager. Wrong username password. Oh no, it's not. I think it's the default one. That was for the that was wrong. Yeah, okay. Cool. I got to update that password. So this is the password I just typed in was for Proxmox. This is for OpenSense. So I got to update that password a little bit. That's fine. So let's go ahead and go through the initial configuration. OpenSense, local domain. I wish I could change that. That's fine. We're going to use... So this is where we're going to go through just the configuration, right? Okay. We're going to enable DNSSEC. So our primary DNS server is going to be this 1.1.1. Secondary, I'm just going to use Google. At one point, I will need to update this to use either WireGuard, AdGuard, whatever. We'll figure out which one I want to go with. Got to worry about that installation as well. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that with Unraid as well. That'll be fun, right? Having my two servers talk to each other. Why not? Go ahead and click on Next. We are in America, USA, Chicago. There you go. It's just going to be using the OpenSense NTP servers. That's fine with me. DHCP is fine, I think. Yes, this is fine. Because the idea is this is going to be getting the IP address directly from our gateway. And our gateway is from AT&T. So AT&T is going to be giving us our IP address. And I'm not paying for a static IP address. I don't think, I mean, most people are. Leave it there. No host name. Everything else looks okay. We don't have PPTP. 1.1 is perfect. The root password. Okay. Okay, so this should be the new password now. Don't update. And reload to apply changes. I'm trying to see if I can find a way to do quick updates. Cool, I can. Now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this tab real quick. And I'm going to go back to reporting traffic. And I'm going to go ahead and keep this at 10 seconds. That's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and you know what? Maybe it's because I had WAN off. Is it because I had WAN off? Well, WAN's not connected to anything. That's fine. And I'm going to go ahead and click to check for updates. Good time of your day. Today, current receives a number of minor updates that have accumulated since 24. Here's a full patch. Close. Updates. How do I install them? Update. Okay. So it has internet access. That's good. In, out, in, out, in, out. So now I think it's actually being used because now we're going into megabits per second now. Oh yeah, that's definitely being used now. So now it's actually doing work. Those were just, I guess, internal communications from servers. I don't know what they are. So I got to look into that, obviously. There you go, 25 megabits per second peak. yeah, I guess the next steps are to plug this into the WAN port. LAN is good, WAN is good. I just gotta take it upstairs and do some switching around. Cool. Boy, you have missed a lot. All right, so it's finally working. I went to go ahead and plug in the OpenSense router, the VM, into my home network, and it didn't work. I probably spent like a good probably 12 to 14 hours troubleshooting, including starting over from scratch. I rebuilt the Proxmox server. I rebuilt the OpenSense VM a few times, and finally got it to work after reading a lot of information. So the main reason why it was not working, if you look at the very bottom right here, you'll see that I have a LAN IP of 192.168.1.1. And I misspelled untrusted there. Don't worry about that. That's from a guide I was following. And a WAN IP of 192.168.2.65. I don't know if this is shown in the early recordings, but in the other recordings, I believe my WAN IP was 192.168.1.69 or something like that. So because of that, there was an issue with DHCP. And because there was an issue with DHCP, none of my devices were able to get an IP address and go anywhere. Initially, I thought it was just an issue with, what was it? DNS, because certain websites would load, some websites would not. That wasn't the case. It looks like it was DHCP. It might have also been an issue with DNS. I'm not entirely certain. But the second go around when I did this was pretty straightforward. To kind of go over what I did, and hopefully I remember what I did exactly, was, let's see. The first thing I did was I created this VLAN. Basically, the idea is if I ever have any guest devices or something, they'll just automatically be put in here. I have to figure out how I'm going to do that. It might be through the managed router, managed switch. Don't entirely know how I'm going to do that. Initially, I wanted to create 5 of them. Don't know if I'm going to get to that. I think I spoke about it. Don't know if I'm going to get to that. I'm going to focus on getting the basics working. So what did I have to do? The first thing I had to do, and let me try to get into it. So I have here the firewall logs in effect, showing only blocks. I'm going to refresh this page here, 2254. And we can see here, where is it? From here to 25480, that's my computer 182, is being blocked by the firewall. So I wish there was an easier way to grab that, but there's not. So I'm going to take a quick screenshot of this. That's what I have for my reference. I have that firewall rule that I can create. Go back here, create a firewall rule for pass. We want to go in any time source. I only want my personal computer to do it right now. We're going to do 192.8.1. What is it? 182, right? It's right there in my notes. Source, that's fine. Port range, that's fine. From, can I not change the port? Okay, source port, okay. Can't change that for some reason. We'll do single host. I just want that IP, only that IP. Weirdly enough, I can't click on this. From any, okay, that's fine. Destination to the WAN address. Can I do a specific single host or network? Okay, cool, I can. We're going to do, what is it? 192.168.2.254. Just that IP address. Can't change that, that's weird. I can log the packets, that's pretty smart. That way, and I can also create a syslog server, that's really cool. I'm not going to log the packets, that's fine. Gateway default save. So now in theory, we should be able to access it now, hopefully. Let's see if we can get that browser window up one more time. If I can find it. I was doing a lot of Googling. Please work. 182 to 254. It's still being... Oh, I didn't apply changes. Okay, changes have been applied. Let's go back to that page here. Fresh. It worked. All right, cool. So, hey, that's actually really cool. I now have this. I gotta be careful what I show here, but that was actually really exciting. I created a rule. Well, first, okay, so here's what I did, right? At first, I thought you had to create a route. Maybe that was the issue. I Googled it, couldn't find that much information, did not look like it was the issue. Someone suggested, like, look at your firewall logs, and I was like, okay, I'll look at my firewall logs. And in the firewall logs, I did see that it was being blocked. And from there, I was like, okay, it's the firewall rule that's blocking it. Therefore, I should create a firewall rule to allow it. And now I can go between the two easily. Nice. All right, so that's really cool. I'm very excited about that, actually. But anyways, back to now that we have that created, and I'll probably disable that rule after this because I probably won't need it again until afterwards. But anyways, the reason why I wanted to come here in the first place was to show the changes that I had to do here. So first thing I did was disable all Wi-Fi capabilities. I had to do two things. I had to enable this in pass-through mode, and I had to enable this, change the IP address. So if I go to subnets in DHCP, I had to change this from 1 to 2. As I said a little bit earlier, the issue that I was having was because the LAN and the WAN were in the same subnet, there was a lot of DHCP issues. I'm guessing that, I guess the idea is that there's two DHCP servers on the same... There's two gateways, basically. Maybe that's. I'm not sure if that's how you explain that, but I'm not a network engineer. So I did that. From what I've read, you have to keep the DHCP server on. Otherwise, it won't get the IP address for the WAN in OpenSense. So I did those two, and the last thing I had to do was go into Firewall, and enable IP pass-through, and then pass through to my OpenSense MAC address. And that one was I just chose from this list here, which OpenSense. Pretty straightforward. And once that was done, I had to what did I have to do? Once that was done, close this out. I had to go in here and finish some configurations, such as enabling DHCP here, which I can go through that real quick. Probably don't have to actually, because it should all be there. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I don't like this. I need to change that name. Do that right now. That's maybe a little better. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So what else did I have to do there? Trying to think. We created the firewall rule. We created that. Yeah, I think that was basically it. That was all I had to do. The thing is, I didn't know that's what I had to do. So that took me a very long time to figure that out. Like, once you've done it, it's like, oh, it makes sense, I guess.